Hello, so today we're going to be going over patch 14.7. This is going to be me reacting to Mortdog's patch 14.7 rundown, which is on his YouTube channel already. If you want to see Mortdog's take and explanations about the changes as a dev of TFT, please make sure to check out Mortdog's channel. Either way, make sure to like and subscribe to Mortdog to show your support to Mortdog. I am reacting to his presentation. If you like my content, I'm normally doing guides and or some for fun like tier lists and other type of content. Like recently I did like responding to YouTube comments, stuff like that. But primarily this is a VOD review and a guide channel where I try and give as much informed information about set 14 and how to play around different set mechanics and stuff like that. But we're going to go through the patch notes, and I do this every time there's a new patch that's coming up and when we have these patch rundowns, and it's going to be my genuine reactions looking at it for the first time. So that's how I kind of do these, just to make it more entertaining so I can be like, oh wow, and have like a genuine feel to it. But anyway, let's start with the changes. So system changes, so let's see here. Radiant items have been changed to Radiant XXX. I think that's how most people refer to them anyways. Before they had like really interesting names like Devara whatever's, Stoneplate, or like, you know, like Fist of Fairness. And I think they were kind of like cute and cool. But a lot of like the websites, like it doesn't really matter because a lot of like the stats websites and stuff, I feel like you were able to like search them by Radiant XXX anyways. So it didn't really matter to me, but I guess that makes it a little bit clearer, especially if you're a beginner player, to make the connection of like those items being upgraded versions of other items. And then if you don't pick an item on stage 5 plus carousel, now prioritize a completed item. Okay, that makes sense. I think this is really cool for when you're in like this change. This is cool for when like somebody's trying to grief you and you kind of have that like the standoff where you're like staring at each other trying to like, you know, bait if you're gonna take the item or not. Now it just makes it so you don't get like giga griefed. Like you can like just wait it out till the clock ends, but you know, not too much of a change. Double up, I don't play double up. You can check these out on your own if you're a double up enjoyer, so I can't tell you too much about it. Next, let's go to trait changes. So trait changes. Cipher Nerf. It doesn't seem like a big nerf. Now, I'm not familiar enough with Cipher to be able to give you guys like an informed breakdown of how much this actually matters, but I like Cipher nerfs. I think Cipher is way too strong. I think there are many different ways to play around Cipher, and you can cap your board really high in all of those variations, either reroll from no lose streak, reroll from lose streak, or just cash out into like giga win out into the end game. All of those are like crazy, and I think it's really overtuned, really strong. So definitely needed a nerf somehow. Now these nerfs don't seem like that much, but these are like your loss streak, like your base like loss streak. So I think it would affect like when it scales up for having like more of a higher loss streak. And it's getting adjusted by like 1 or 2 on every stage. It's getting adjusted by 3 on this stage. What I think this means is that looking at the 3 Cipher, I think this means if you have 2-1 Cipher, you won't be able to reach a 290 cash out, which is actually a big nerf. However, I think if you have 4 Cipher in or something. Oh no, this is just like base loss by stage. Yeah, like you might not be able to get a 290 with 3 Cipher. Like I think that's what this change does. And 290 is like that bastion of good Cipher cash out. You know what I mean? It's like this is like how you kind of like get stuff to work out with the comp. That's like the sweet spot. So it kind of adjusts that to make sure that you have like a little bit of a better Cipher spot, or you're killing units and stuff, which makes it a little bit harder to get those like good cash outs. But I think that's fine. I think it needed some nerf in some way. I was like, you know, talking about it quite a bit like in a couple of the videos before, especially when I was responding to comments, because there was a little bit of a discussion about Cipher there. So cool. Executioner. I think 4 and 5 Executioner are just like no reason to ever play it. Very few times you ever dig into these lines because it just doesn't matter. So I think buffing them is good, but I don't think it's gonna make too much of a change because I think the Executioner lines are still gonna be hard to play around these higher Executioner thresholds. Exotech was like the one that's like been like the big giga comp this patch. But you know, it wasn't super crazy. 7 Exotech getting a nerf from 300 HP to 270. I think it was 240 and then it was kind of dog shit. They buffed it to 300 and then it was like overtuned, so now it's like, you know, cut in the middle, 270. I think it's like a good way of doing stuff. It should fall into a place where Exotech isn't like giga broken. I don't even think Exotech was that crazy this patch, because it was a little bit dependent on hitting your units. You were still super stable. It was definitely a comp that can support like 2 people, but I feel like if it was a 3-way Exotech contest, you guys were all griefing each other anyways. So it didn't matter too much to me, because TFT has like a little bit of like a balance factor built in for when a comp is like really strong, multiple people play the comp, which then makes the comp a lot worse because you're not hitting it for free. I think the bigger problem is when Exotech was like, you know, hitting for free. Also, I think I have double inking by accident. If I have double inking, I fixed it now. So apologies for that, but I think it was fine. And then now Hollow Bow grants some AD, make it a little bit more flexible. I think the worst scenario for Exotech was always when you didn't have good items for anything else and you were kind of forced to play Exotech, but you don't have good Exotech items. This might make it so that maybe Hollow Bow is like okay on like Jhin or Zeri to like kind of stabilize your board a little bit, because it kind of felt like if you didn't have good Exotech items and you weren't in a spot to play around some of the other comps in the game, you were just like in a giga bad spot. So this I think helps that a little bit. So you know, I don't think it's like, you know, we see buff here and we freak out because Exotech's already strong. I think this HP nerf is going to be enough to make it a lot more tolerable. Next we have Nitro, HP per chrome. I think Nitro needs a buff. This is a lot. I don't know how much this works out to because I don't know what the scaling is on the HP when you get the T hex. But like it would basically be like 200 base HP, right? Because you get 1 extra HP per chrome. So if you get 200 chrome to get the T hex, you're going to get 200 extra HP. I don't know how much it works out to be, but any buff I think is good. I think Nitro is just in a really awkward spot currently. But I think it's like you need more damage. I think like damage on the laser maybe might help it be a little bit better. I don't think this is going to be enough for me to say like Nitro's broken, I'm playing Nitro. You know what I mean? And then Vanguard, really, really strong. 6Ps being, like, extremely powerful on most boards. Like, you know, being, like, you know, part of that, like, Giga frontline. Like, who has the better frontline, me or the Zeri with infinite HP. So, nerfing that a little bit makes sense. I think it was definitely in the overtuned category. So that was for traits. Doesn't look like there's a lot of changes right now. I'm not sure if this is the regional patch, but I think like as the set gets to this time where it's like mostly like the competitive season of TFT, like regionals into worlds and stuff, you'll start to notice that the patches are not going to be as like massive swingy. They're going to be like small changes and stuff. I think the balance for the units and stuff has been great. The balance for the traits for the most part has been great this set. So I don't expect there to be lots of changes, but we're still going to go over them and talk about them a little bit. Of course. But, you know, there's some things that I think, like, you know, if it's overtuned or undertuned, I would like to see some changes to, like, encounters. I think the encounters are kind of, like, ugh, and some of the, like, the black market augments. But I think if you adjust those type of things, then it makes the set really boring for the people that enjoy those, because that's, like, the main appeal of the set is the set mechanic. But anyways, let's go through champs. So don't expect to see too many changes here. Mundo, healing HP ratio. I don't think Mundo's super broken. I think some people really think this guy's like strong, but I think he's really good if you have the spot to play him. So now it just makes it that your spot has to be really good in order to compensate for that. Because Mundo, you're usually re-rolling him with like the techies, and it kind of like works out pretty nicely. People call it the gorilla comp because of like a joke that was said in scrims at one point. But you know, it seems like a pretty substantial nerf. But usually if you have a good spot, the Mundo's staying alive anyways, so I think it will still be okay. Like, I don't think the comp is dead in the water, so to speak. Next we have Vi. Vi 3 getting an increased spell shield AP ratio. I actually don't really like this change too much. I already think Vi 3-star is absurdly strong. This also helps with Cipher. If you play like Cipher reroll with like LeBlanc Draven and you have the Vi, because she gets like a huge amount of AP from that as well. I think Vi is one of the strongest one costs in the game right now, and I don't think she needed that much of. Oh, sorry, this is only 4-star. Oh, okay, never mind. Disregard. I misread. Disregard. So it's a nerf to 1-star and 2-star, and 3 stars remaining the same. So it's actually good. I was just saying, I'm like, Vi is one of the strongest units in the game, and a lot of times, like, you know, there's reroll spots where you, no. This is only a 4-star. That's fine. We don't care about that. 4-star is so rare, like, it should be broken, like, whatever. That's fine. Okay, so this is actually a really good change. I apologize, really good change. It's 1 and 2-star Vi getting nerfed. I already said I think Vi is one of the best one costs in the game, so definitely needed a nerf there. We're totally okay with that. My bad. Next we have Zyra. I feel like Zyra's damage was a little bit lacking the whole set, so they're just buffing the main damage and the secondary damage. It looks like around, like, it looks very small to me, right? Like, it's like 20 on 660. It's like 5% bonus. Right, 10 on 330. It seems very little, right? Like, it does not seem like a big change, so I do not think Zyra is gonna go from, like, you know, Giga S tier. Like, she's gonna, like, spike up and be really broken in any way. So I think this is fine. Just tweak it a little bit, make her a little bit better, average it out a little bit, because she was a little bit underperforming in my opinion. So I think that's wonderful change as well. So far, we're really doing some good changes. I really think the balance, like I said, the balance this set has been great. I think they've been doing really well. Okay, so this one goes out to the multiple people in my comments that kept telling me that it's intentional and that I shouldn't worry about it. But we'll talk about it in a second. So yeah, the TFT devs agree with me. They're competent, and all the people that were telling me that I didn't know what I was talking about. Yeah, it was too much. Okay, but anyways, first thing, Graves. Projectile AD percentage, they're lowering it. I think Graves is really good in certain spots. So I don't think that the nerf is too crazy. But at the same time, I think it might make it like really hard to play around Graves sometimes now. Because like sometimes with Graves, you just go 8th. Right, you really need to have a good spot to balance your Golden Ox procs to get the damage amp for the Graves with the Graves reroll line. But this is totally fine. We're happy with that. Now, to the point in question that I was like, you know, trying to like, you know, take a jab at some of the commenters that I get on my videos. There's a thing with Graves with Titanic Hydra and Wit's End, and they were giga broken on Graves. Basically win conditions, like so game breaking. And what was happening was Titanic Hydra basically is like when you auto attack, you do extra AD and hit AoE, and then with Wit's End, you heal and do extra bonus magic damage. The way that it worked was that it would stack on his passive, which would make him do 5 auto attacks, right? So when he would have an auto attack, he would shoot and it would be like 5 bullets. So it would proc the effects of Titanic Hydra and Wit's End on each of those 5 bullets. So you basically get 5 times the value of these items if you put them on Graves, which made them extremely broken. You would get 5 times the damage on Titanic Hydra with the bonus effect and 5 times on Wit's End with it. And it was just like, it was obnoxious. It was like if somebody just has one of these Ornn artifacts, you just know they won the game for free. And whenever you have a situation like that, it's dumb. It's not a good thing, right? So I was saying in multiple videos, like, I think they're going to change this because it doesn't make sense for it to work this way, because it's just like Exodia on the spot for no reason. And they changed it because, yeah, instead of it working 5 times, now it's only going to work 1 time. A bunch of people were telling me that, no, that's how it should be, and it shouldn't be changed, and that's intentional, and don't worry, it's exactly how it should be. And I was like, guys, like, it's too broken. Like, they're either going to nerf these items or they're going to nerf Graves. It's one or the other. It was like minus 1.5. Like, it was absurd, like, how broken it was. So, good change. This is a huge and amazing change. Very rare, of course, but it helps you in those cases where it's not just going to be like, oh, I guess that guy just wins because he hit Titanic or Wit's End. So it makes the game, I think, a little bit better, healthier. Next, we have Shyvana. So, Shyvana, I feel like she's pretty good right now, especially if you get Shyvana 3. Like, she seems to tank a lot. I find that sometimes she's really hard to kill, especially if you let her get those HP and you have good items on her. But either way, small buffs, right? It doesn't seem like that much. It's like around 5%-ish, right? Like 200 to 210, 270 to 285, 340 to 360. It's like around like 5%-ish, which is totally fine. So Shyvana is going to be a little bit better. Might help with some of those techie lines. Might maybe help with those techie reroll lines. Helps censor her as a unit into early game to like stabilize your board a little bit. Next we have Vayne. Vayne is base AD changes. I always say this every patch review. Base AD changes are big changes because everything scales off your base AD when you're playing these types of units, right? It's always like, you know, percentage AD increase. So if you have a higher base AD, it's going to help you out a lot. So this is big change. Vayne reroll might be a thing. I think Vayne reroll, it started out as being like a reliable reroll very early in the set. Then it kind of fell off really hard when there was like a bunch of changes and nerfs and stuff. And since then, it's been really shit. Last patch, I think some people tried Vayne reroll. I felt like every time I played Vayne reroll, it was just a worse option of just playing Senna reroll. Because usually when you're playing Vayne, you're playing with Vanguards and you're going for like Jarvan 3 and those 3 costs anyways and trying to play around Slayers. So usually you're playing like a level 7 board anyways. There is a Vayne Darius line, which last patch people were like talking about, thinking that it's like really cool. Basically, you play like Syndicate with the Vayne. So you would basically play like Darius 3, Vayne 3, and then you would have like Shaco Braum or like MF if you wanted like drop the Vanguard and just play like Bruiser frontline, play 4 Bruiser, 4 Slayer. I felt like the line was just bait. It was just like Twitter bait that, like, you know, if you never played the game that much, or if you wanted to try something new at the cost of your own LP, it probably costed you LP. So I didn't think it was that strong. But if Vayne becomes really broken with this change, it's hard to say. She's also an auto attacker, so base AD is going to scale up her damage pretty effectively. Then something like that might work out really nicely, because then you're just efficiently rolling for frontline, backline on level 6 instead of having to play Slayers on the level 7 board that then might make it hard to hit the Vayne 3. But we'll see. We'll pay attention to it. This change is pretty good, so I expect Vayne reroll in some variation, either with Vanguard Slayers or Bruiser Slayers, to be a viable comp next patch. I expect it to be like something you can play around. Next, we have our 3 costs and our 4 cost champ. So Fiddlesticks, some AS change. That's fine. Totally okay. Annie getting a nerf to her fireball damage. So I don't know if this is reverting it back to when Annie was not very good. Annie right now is really good if you just play Amp, right? Golden Ox, sometimes she can pop off, but usually she's just part of like the solid Amp board. I find it crazy that there's no strict Amp nerfs, so to speak, because I feel like Amp is just one of those, like, it's kind of obnoxious how good it is at winning out from a loss streak. So I think that it, like, to make the game a little bit better, it's hard to say. Like, you have to have some kind of comp that's good from a loss streak, because right now in the current set there's not like a good loss streak comp because of encounters making it a lot of RNG if you like drop low on HP really effective. Like it's hard to describe, but like lose streaking is pretty bad this set, minus playing around Amp or some sort of high win out comp. So like I wish there was like more changes to Amp units, because we haven't seen any of the others, like 3 costs, like maybe like a Yumi nerf or something like that. But it's fine. I think this will help out with making it like a little bit less consistent, which could be a little bit better. But I think Annie herself, like, the problem is like Annie as a singular unit, I feel like isn't broken. Like if you just play Annie no synergy, she sucks. If you play Annie Golden Ox, I feel like she sucks. It's only with like the 5 Amp where she really starts to pop off. So, you know, and at that point I think you already won the game. So I don't think these nerfs are going to matter too much, is what I'm trying to say. Next we have ChoGath. I was saying this in my I think it was yesterday's video, I forget when I was saying it, but I was saying like bruisers it was yesterday's video. I was saying bruisers right now are pretty trash and they don't seem like that good. So I was saying they're either going to buff bruisers, which I don't think they'll do, or they're going to buff ChoGath. 100 HP on a bruiser unit, this ChoGath might actually be a demon and might actually open up some bruiser front lines now, because 100 HP is a lot of HP on any unit, right? Any 4 cost unit, 100 base AP, 100 base HP, excuse me, is a lot. So giving that to a bruiser unit that also scales off HP, and if you know ChoGath's ability is this whole thing is he keeps gaining extra HP, which like scales him even more. This is actually a big buff, right? That's like a good chunk up, and ChoGath really has been underperforming as a tank. This might open up a lot of lines. Like you might be able to play more around like Executioner Boombots, you might play more around like just Boombots in general, and you might also have some flexibility of like just bruisers in your front line, right? ChoGath right now, like bruiser frontline comps are either extremely high roll that you're playing like high cap level 9 boards and you're playing ChoGath because he mixes well with Urgot for the Boombot synergy, or it's like, you know, very like out of the meta. And a lot of that was because of the redemption changes. Before, redemption was really good with bruisers. So this, I think, will make ChoGath really good. The boards that we play with ChoGath, we will have to see what comes up as we play the game. So that I don't know. But I think it might help out any board that already like might fit in a ChoGath or a bruiser. ChoGath might be a really good frontline option now. Next we have Misfortune. 3 AD change is massive. I think that's going to help her out a lot. I feel like Misfortune's already part of some really high cap dynamo boards, and she does pump out damage, but she always feels like she's a little bit like, you know, she doesn't one-shot everybody, but then she doesn't like cast fast enough, and then if you make her cast more, she doesn't have the damage, and if you make her have the damage, then she doesn't cast. So it's like there was always this whole battle like the whole time when you were playing in set 14 around MF, or that's how it felt for me. So making her do this, I feel like that's a huge change. Like 3 AD is a lot. And then she's also getting a bonus on 7 Syndicate. That doesn't matter too much. It's 7 Syndicate, right? That's 2 emblems. That's like, you know, converting a win condition. That's like, you know, like the feels bad when you go 3rd with 7 Syndicate because somebody else hit Amp, you know, like AKA what happens to me all the time. But 3 AD is a huge buff in damage. So expect to see MF being a little bit more common. Maybe we'll see like an MF Bruiser line, right? We'll play Syndicate Bruiser, because these two changes together seem pretty good on the same page. Who knows? But I think MF's going to be a little bit more common of a unit, which might help with some of like the AD contesting, right? Because a lot of times like Vanguard Marksman's really contested, and then Zeri's really contested. MF kind of was like on the side, very specific. If you hit certain Dynamo units, this might make it a little bit better. So look forward to that. I know I am. Next, let's go to other changes. So some more 4-cost changes. Nico, they're buffing a little bit. I think that makes sense. That's fine. They kind of nerfed Nico a little bit, and then Street Demon kind of like fell off a little bit. I think Street Demon just can't keep up in terms of the tankiness and the damage of some of the other AD lines, which is, it really feels bad, because like it makes AP, like playing around AP units or like, you know, magic style damage units really hard this last patch, which has been really frustrating for me, especially because, like, you know, I'll start the game off with like a bunch of AP items, and it's like, oh well, GG. Like, I mean, I don't have a, like, with AP items, I don't have a spot for Zeri, and I don't have a spot for you know, Vanguard Marksman, or I don't have a spot for like all these other AD comps. It's like I'm either full open into Amp, or I'm gonna play the lesser version of it and hope that I hit all my Street Demons, or else I'll just die, right? So it's like, you know, I think making Nico a little bit stronger with that shield might help out a little bit with that line. But indirectly, there's also buffs Amp, right? It makes Amp a little bit more stable, because you usually play it with Amp, so it's like, I don't know. Next we have Vex. So Vex damage is getting increased. I think this is back to when Vex was like really strong. Vex is kind of like really good at like deleting units, but you really want to be able to chew through a front line. So currently, with like all the front lines being really strong in the last patch, Vex wasn't a really good comp to play around unless you had an insanely good spot for it. But this might make Vex Bruisers. Vex Bruiser was a thing before with like Urgot. This might make that line a little bit better. Also, just buffing her back to like, I think it's like back to where she was when she was like really dominant. It might make Vex like a more reliable line to play around. It just, Vex is always hard to play because you need blue buff. You usually need blue buff, and you need Gunblade as items on her, right? Because she's an AP unit that scales off of Omnivamp, so Gunblade's really, really strong on her. And then you want blue buff almost always because she's a low mana threshold unit. So the items being very specific really makes Vex hard to play, because if you're not going to win out, like if you need really specific items, usually you want a loss streak so you can guarantee those with Carousel, or you have to high roll your items. So if you can't lose streak really easily, because this set is really hard to do that, it's like if you're gonna lose streak to make a blue buff, it's like, why don't you just lose streak to play Amp? And I think that's the big problem. It's like, why am I lose streaking to play Vex when I can lose streak to play Amp, and I might as well just do that instead. So hopefully she's like good enough that like I feel like what I'm trying to say is like, I think she's good enough to play, but your spot is very specific for her. So irrespective of these changes, you're going to need a very specific type of opener, right? You're going to have to like natural some of the Vex items so you don't have to lose streak to play her. And then I think she's a really good comp to play, because like other than that, it's like I don't think like you could turn it around on a dime unless there's like some really broken thing that comes up in the next patch. Next we have Ziggs. So Ziggs just increasing the damage. I feel like Ziggs is like in an okay spot right now. I feel like he does good damage. He was like, you know, indirectly like doing really bad the whole set because he had a lot of bugs associated with him, and those bugs seem to be all squashed, all like ironed out. So good change, I guess. I feel like he's not super reliable to play around, but the problem is it's just like the decoupling, right? A lot of times like Ziggs, because he's a strategist, you're playing him around strategist, but then means you're playing Street Demon. But if you're playing Street Demon and you're playing strategist, then you might as well play Brand, and if you're not playing Brand, you might as well just play Amp. And it's like, okay, well, like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? It's hard to decouple them from those synergies just because of the way the trait web works out, which I think is part of the reason why like Ziggs is not that commonly played. But if Cyberboss works out really well, maybe there's some Cyberboss lines like Cyberboss Strategist, or just Strategist straight up, that might be good if Ziggs is strong enough. Because the thing is, like, Ziggs just usually doesn't feel like he could solo carry. If Ziggs gets buffed to the point, which these buffs are pretty substantial, they're like around 10%-ish, more or less. Or like a little bit less than 10%. But like if Ziggs can solo carry, then you might be able to open up, like crack that walnut and play like full strategist boards or something like that. That makes the comp a little bit more reliable. So I'm hoping that's the case. But we'll see. We'll have to see how it works out. Like if Ziggs can solo carry or if not. Because if he can't solo carry, then it's going to not decouple him from those other synergies. Next we have 5-cost champs. Alright, so Renekton, we have an HP buff. I think Renekton doesn't perform that well. It's so hard to tell with Renekton. Sometimes Renekton pops off. His spots and his items are very particular for where this unit does damage. So it's kind of crazy. So I'm not sure. And then we have this HP buff. So the HP buff just helps him to survive a little bit longer. I think that's good, right? I think survivability on Renekton is really important because of the way his casts work. If you don't know, the way Renekton works is he casts the first time, he casts the second time, and then after his third cast, he no longer casts, and he just becomes like a giga auto attacker. That's why things like QSS and attack speed are really good on him, because you basically just get him to auto attack and do a bunch of damage. So a lot of times when your Renekton doesn't do any damage, it's because he dies too early and he doesn't get to like that third point where he's just like, whoa, like spinning the blade and like hitting everybody, right? And doing like tricks with it. So if the HP buff, especially on a 5 cost in base HP, is probably going to be really substantial, that might make Renekton a lot more reliable to play around. So think your Divinicorp lines, your Bastion lines. I think he's going to help to cap out boards a lot better. So I actually like this change because I think Renekton was kind of like a little bit temperamental recently, like hard to play. Next we have Samira. So this one is hard for me to tell. So instead of getting 2 bullets per amp, she now starts with 22 base bullets. So previously, if I recall, if she was getting 2 bullets per amp, she would get 10 bullets with 5 amp plus the 20, and now she's gonna get, so it would be like 30, and now she's 22 plus 5, so she's 27. So she loses 3 bullets on 5 amp. Is that enough to like balance her? I don't know, but it makes her less dependent on amp, right? Is what I would say. So like she's better with like 4 amp and 3 amp or something. I don't know. I don't know if this actually changes anything. The problem with Samira that I find is that Samira does absolutely nothing unless you're playing her with like amp. This might help her with like Street Demon lines. But like Samira, of all the 5 costs, I feel like is the hardest to play on a board if you're not already playing the synergies around her, right? So for example, let's say you're playing like, I don't know, let's just pick a random board. Let's say you're playing like Graves or something. And it's like, oh, I hit a 5 cost. Can I play it? I feel like you can play every 5 cost in the game, right? Aurora just is like a +1 unit. You know, Renekton gives a buff. Zac is a win condition. Garen's a win condition. Urgot's Executioner, for example. Or he just like, he gives you loot, so he's just good to play on a board. Samira, she's like, I do damage only if I have one of my synergies active. If not, I kind of just jump in and int. Like, you know what I mean? She doesn't like slot into boards really easily. So I feel like these changes don't really matter. Like I don't think Samira is going to be played anymore. I think it just makes her like a little bit better with Street Demon, a little bit worse with Amp. But you still have to be playing one of those 2 traits in order for Samira to even make it onto your board. I think there are some other things I left out, of course, right? Like there's Golden Ox, where you play Samira with the Amp because you have Annie on your board, right? Obviously there's stuff like that. But like, or even sometimes you play her with like Yumi if you're playing what's it called, Anima Squad, but she's not like the first pick is what I would say. That's like very like specific. Anyways, we have Zac now. So this one is hard for me to tell how strong this is. So Zac's base spell damage is getting a buff, but his AP for blob is going down. So they're not changing the tankiness of Zac. I think this is to kind of address Zac being like a giga win condition where he does the most damage in the game, as well as does the most tanking in the game, as well as stuns. So it's hard to tell exactly what's going on here, because 2 AP less, he's basically going to gain half the AP with his stacks, which is pretty substantial, but he's also going to be doing more base damage. So if you're getting half the AP, and how much of a buff is this? This is like 20%, 10%, 20%. It's like 20-ish%, right? It's like 45 on 75. That's like 20% buff, maybe a little bit more. 20% buff minus 50, so it's like a net 30% loss, like if we're estimating. So 30% loss, and he would win with like 40 bloblets. So how many bloblets is it to win now? 60? To do the same damage of when you're at 40? But his tankiness stays the same, right? That's the thing, his tankiness stays the same. So it's definitely a nerf, right? It's definitely a nerf. But it's just like, is it enough of a nerf? It just makes it more like you have to high roll your Zac earlier, right? I think that's what this just comes down to. I don't think he's gonna be, I think he's still gonna be a win condition for all the boards that he is a win condition for. But I think that now, in order to keep up with where he used to be, you definitely need to like hit him a little bit earlier, which I think is a good change. obviously. Augments now. Last stand, giving less HP, sure. It was kind of like a bailout, like Giga hitter, whatever. So sure. Luden's Echo. Luden's Echo. Isn't this a prismatic? Am I crazy? Whatever. Memory bank no longer offered on 3.2. Overclock disabled. Spare parts disabled. Okay, so I don't know if overclocked was bugged. I didn't hear about it, but sure, remove it. Fine. Spare parts was bugged. This shit did not function correctly. So yeah, get rid of it. Like, it was so tilting because like it just didn't work. So happy for that. Like, they should have disabled it like earlier, or emergency disabled it. I hate it when augments don't function and there's like no you know, if I didn't tell you guys that spare parts was like bugged, like I guarantee you, like if you're watching this video, did you know that this augment didn't work? But it was in the game. Like, you know what I mean? I hate it when it's like that. Like, those things, like, oh, I hate that so much. Like, I wish that TFT, like, I know TFT has to be coupled to the League client so that, like, it's the same thing. But, God, I wish they decoupled TFT from League. I know that it would, like, take a huge crapshoot to, like, the TFT, like, player base because, like, all the League players play TFT or whatever. But, like, man, I wish it was in a separate client so it can have its own individual patches. Because, like, I have to, like, find these out by trial and error. Because, like, there's not even, like, a thing that says that they're, like, not functional. Because, like, the bugs can't be reported very clearly unless you, like, go into Mortdog's Discord and you read all the bug reports of everybody talking about stuff. So it's, like, I feel like, especially for a beginner player, like, how do you even know this doesn't work? You know what I mean? It's, like, But good job. At least it's disabled now. I'm happy. But it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, I think that if TFT, I wish TFT was decoupled from the League client, like it was in its own individual client, because then there could be emergency patches, like they can emergency disable stuff, similar to how, like, in Valorant, if there was like a Cipher bug one patch on Valorant, like this was like a couple of years ago, I don't play Valorant that much anymore, and like within like 3 hours, the competitive queue was disabled, and then they banned like the certain situation. You know what I mean? Because it's like in its own client. But because this one has to be like patched at the same time as League, it's like if there's a problem, it's like, oh yeah, I guess you just have to know about it, or like just don't take it in the next 2 weeks. GG. But it's fine. Thorn plated. Yeah, this one was really strong, really broken. So they're cutting the healing. I think it's still going to be a really strong early game tempo augment. And then Think Fast disabled. Yeah, like all of these, like this set, I hate it so much. No offense to if you really like the set, but holy shit, these black market augments, like, yeah, disable it. Like, GG, goodbye. Like, it should never be in the game. Like, it was disabled from the game for a reason. They removed it from the game in set 9 for a reason, because it was ridiculous. So, thank you. Like, I don't want to see it again. Please don't bring it back in set, like, fucking 15 or 16 or 17 whenever the next time we do encounters are. Like, hello? I don't get it. Next disabled scoped weapons. You know, in set 9, the scoped weapons existed, and they got rid of it within the set. They were like, you know what? I don't think we should have scoped weapons here. This shit's kind of fucked up. And it's like, anyways. PvE rounds in double up can no longer have 0 bonus orbs. Sure. Fixed a bug where 4-star Shyvana gained less HP than intended. Sure. I think the only other bugs I remember with the augments, and I think they disabled some of those. Like, I was just talking about it. So that's fine for bug changes. We're totally happy with that. There is a lot more to this video. I'm sure Mortdog talks about some other stuff. I'm going to watch it on my own time. I think I heard on, like, Twitter or something that he might be working on, like, the Riot MMO. It doesn't really matter to me, but if you're a fan of, like, TFT and Mortdog and stuff, you can check that on your own time. Overall, I would say good patch. I think it addresses some of the issues of the previous patch. Maybe Stratamp is a little bit worse. Maybe Exotech is not like as forcible anymore. Like, those are the big changes. And then a little bit of like adjustments to all of the other stuff that is not necessarily either performing as well as it should, or is underperforming or overperforming or whatever. I think it addressed a lot of the units that had problems and a lot of the units that were good. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, like I said before, make sure to like and subscribe and support the Mortdog, and also do it to me if you like my content. Personally, if you're a fan of my streams, this is just personal updates, right? I may or may not be streaming TFT that much anymore. I personally have not enjoyed this set at all. I've not had a good experience because I don't like encounters. I knew that from the start of the set. And that's like the majority of the reasons why I didn't like the set. I think the balance is good. I think the units are whatever, but it just feels very boring and blah to me. And then the main thing that's supposed to be exciting, the encounters, is the thing that I hate the most of the set. So I don't know if I'm going to play that much more TFT because I've just been really tilted playing it. I'm just punting away all my LP because I just don't want to play, and I'm just like upset every single game. So I might do some other games on stream, do variety until the next set comes, and maybe like play TFT like once or twice a week. I'll try and post more on YouTube and make members exclusive content as well, because if I'm just not going to be grinding as much TFT, I should have a little bit more time to focus on content, which I think is going to be a healthier relationship with the game for me. So I think I'm going to do that instead. In the worst case, because I'm not playing anymore, I might just like stop my ranked climb altogether. And I'm thinking of actually doing like a video where I start a fresh account and I go from unranked to masters in like a couple games, or not a couple games, usually I can get there in like 100 games or so, and then I just want to post that whole thing on like a new VOD channel because I don't think it would fit well on this channel, and then maybe do like a summary video on this channel. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that, but if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments here. I'll read the comments for this video and I'll do that instead. But I'm just trying to figure out like content ideas for the channel, because like I might take a little bit of a break from like grinding and playing the game. I'll still make guides, I'll still make YouTube content, but it's just like how much effort I put into either or, so to speak. So let me know in the comments if you like that, or if you want me to do that, and then we'll do something like that, and maybe I'll even stream it on YouTube and something, and it'll be like a once a week thing where it's just like, okay, I'm going for my 10-hour grind from, you know, whatever to whatever. Let me know. See you guys around. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.